first test, they like did relatively well, which was kind of the case for me. And then the second test was like more of the actual open material, and then kind of the trend where like you do really well on the first one, then do kind of bad on the second one, and that just kind of like leaves you feel a little bit dejected or like I don't know, just makes you feel kind of bad about yourself.
I did really well in the first exam, but then significantly worse in the second exam. And so for me, I think that second exam was more of the wake up call in regards to like I should probably have like a better plan going into these. Just because the first one's easy doesn't mean like these next ones like will be reflective of that.
That first exam is not technically organic chemistry. That's something that can actually be taught in general chemistry, but that second exam and all exams after that, that is robust organic chemistry in its purity.
It's no longer memorization. It's no longer just, taking a formula and plugging things in.
The first stuff you learn is quite different from everything after. The first exam is more conceptual and has like concepts that aren't really touched upon later, whereas like the later exams are all reactions.
The reason why OChem has this reputation as being such like a tough weed out course is that you have to start thinking completely differently.
For me was like a language almost, where if you learn like the basic vocabulary and stuff, you can construct a lot of stuff from the basics. Like kind of it's kind of simple at the basic level, and the complexity is almost unlimited. So you keep going with it. Like in the lab, you can like theoretically, if you understand the language well and you're fluent in the language of OChem, you can make whatever you want to make. And there's limitations, of course, but you'll understand those limitations once you're fluent in the language, and it kind of feels like unlimited possibilities that way.
A lot of the lecture material, like all the different rules and mechanisms and stuff, was kind of the ground rules for the game, and the problem itself was the game. And so if you treated it like you have this toolkit that you learned from like the different rules of different, reactions and stuff, and you can basically apply those rules to any problem to a certain extent, as long as you understand them. And so you kind of pick up those rules from the lectures, and then you're studying when you get like a bunch of questions, you just work through them one by one. And if you don't get the problem, don't move on to the next one until you get it. And just like, if you can, like Lauren and Camille were saying, like find a different way to do it to get to the same thing, and just kind of treat it step by step that way, and learn the rules, and then the problems are the game. And that's kind of how I treated it.
There are like some rules in OChem, but there's very limited that apply everywhere. And so like learning for every problem, or kind of outlining for every problem, like what your box is, and then how you operate outside of that box. And so you have to obviously like know some really like deep rooted basics, but outside of that, you can't really be afraid to fail to try and apply those basics to other problems.
The transition for me was going from working through all these little like flashcards, like this reaction, this reaction, this reaction, to like Camille was saying, like when you're building a molecule, like what are all the steps that take place there, and actually drawing it out, because drawing it out really helped in a way that writing a flashcard didn't. Because writing a flashcard is just writing a fact, but drawing out a problem is working through all the steps.
I think recognizing that you've done something difficult before, and that you can probably do it again, even if it is really hard, and even if you are freaking out in the moment. I mean, that's something I deal with right now, honestly, is just like accepting this is difficult, this is intimidating, but I've done something like this before and I can probably do it again. And so far that's served me. It's worked out. I mean, you can chalk that up to luck. But I feel like just kind of accepting that things are hard and that I can do them has been helpful as far as mindset for me.
And like when you sit at the exam and you see a problem that you know is difficult on paper, but that you can work through it, it feels really fulfilling that you've gotten to that point at the end of the semester.
We would have like a synthesis problem. It would just even if I was like doing it by myself, just to come up with the answer, it feels so rewarding. And also when you make mistakes and you're like, oh, like, why did I do that? And then just stopping for a second and looking at what you're doing and then figuring out what you did wrong, that's also super rewarding for me. And I think that's what makes learning and OChem interesting.